group was unable to return to their former homes. Ill-equipped and starving, these first humans, so the story goes, became the Aboriginal peoples of the American High Plains. Want another? I'm sure you're familiar with the story of Pandora, she who opened a jar that contained all the evils in the world. What you may not remember from your high school English class is that Pandora was created by the god Hephaestus as the world's first woman. And her decision to open that container and release all those evils is something that her descendants, the ancient Greeks who recorded her story, had to live with. Are you noticing the pattern here? All of these stories, Adam and Eve, Tokahe, Pandora, they're what anthropologists call protoplast myths. The story of the progenitors of a people, a race, or of all mankind. Protoplast myths are important because they inform us about the fundamental values and concerns of the people who first told these stories. And it turns out that in many different places, across many different cultures, our ancestors were terribly interested in decision-making and its consequences. What's fascinating to me is that many of these protoplast myths are really the stories of bad decision-making. My own interpretation of this phenomenon is that early cultures must have looked around at all of the confusing decisions and bad choices that people were making and recognized that this behavior didn't make a lot of sense. And so they figured that, well, we must be descended from some colossally bad decision makers to have turned out the way that we are. And the interest in what influences our decisions, the way it goes wrong, and what can be done to improve it, in short, curiosity about how we decide, has not been sated by the passage of time. Philosophers, theologians, anthropologists, sociologists, psychologists, economists, even marketers have wrestled with this topic over the centuries, and people are still mystified by these questions. And here you are, listening to me talk about it right now. And I'll wager that you are here for the same reason I am, because human decision-making is fascinating. We'll be taking a scientific approach to the topic in these lectures, but underneath all the carefully calibrated experiments and rigorously tested theories is a phenomenon that is just plain enthralling. I mean, how do we decide? Studying decision-making allows us the consistent opportunity to be amazed at the workings of our own minds, at the subtlety of the influences and the intricacy of the processes that drive our decision-making. Let me give you an example from some of my own research. Suppose that you were going shopping for some relatively expensive item, say a new TV. And let's further suppose that you want to take steps to ensure you don't spend too much on this purchase. What might you do? Well, you might try to curb your decision-making by placing a limit on your spending. You might decide the maximum you are willing to spend before you go shopping. Or maybe you set a target price range. So, you might say, I want a nice TV, but I only want to spend around $400. And if that is your strategy, good. Plenty of consumer finance experts agree that is a good way to save money on your purchases. That will keep you from getting carried away when you get to the store. Well, I wasn't so sure. And so a colleague and I decided to test this strategy of setting spending limits on ourselves before making a purchase decision. And we found something interesting. Here's one of the experiments that we ran. First, we had a group of students take a bunch of surveys for which we paid them $6. Then, at the end of the experimental session, we told them we had some extra pens laying around that we were trying to get rid of. We asked them if they would be interested in using some of that $6 to buy a pen off of us at a steep discount, at half the normal Amazon.com price, in point of fact. 85 students said yes, that they would be interested in buying a discounted pen from us. So we randomly assigned each of those participants to one of two purchase decision scenarios. One group was just shown 4 pens, ranging in price from